Drivers, start your engines!
This is Greg Creamer's Full Throttle, powered by Race for RP.
Hi, folks, and welcome to Full Throttle, powered by Race for RP. I'm Greg Creamer. Great to have you with me once again. And, of course, it's time for Speed Trap, and that means we are going to have Calvin Fish alongside to give us some of his insights as to what's unfolding. And, Cal, big weekend for open wheel racing. Our top national series, the IndyCar series, had their big opener at St. Pete, and Formula One big opener in Saudi Arabia at Bahrain. Let's start with IndyCar. And, quickly, Marcus Ericsson gets his fourth IndyCar win. All of them have now somehow involved a red flag at some point during the race.
Well, he drove like we have never seen him drive to win the Indianapolis 500 last May. And now Marcus Ericsson in the Husky Chocolate Honda is a winner again, but this time on the streets of St. Petersburg.
It seems to be a thing when it's a red flag, we win races, because I think every single one of our wins has been in red flag races.
But this one, Cal, was a real crash fest. I mean, there was a red flag 3 corners into the race.
Side by side, this is where we've seen so many problems in contact already for a McLaren.
I think that's Rosenquist. Felix Rosenquist with more damage in the back. The track is total chaos.
Looks like Devlin DiFrancesco airborne. Simon Pagenaud I see in the wall. His teammate Helio Castroneves sideways. Huge accident down the track is blocked. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a red flag here.
Huge amounts of contact. Lots of 2 cars getting airborne. I mean, it was just something else. Is there a reason why that's happening? And obviously it's a street course, so you've got the barriers right there. There's no runoff. But is it first race nerves and anxiousness and just pushing too hard? There seemed to be an awful lot of clag offline in this one, more than I can recall at St. Pete. What do you think was unfolding there?
Well, first of all, it's great to see so many cars on the grid. I mean, the series has really helped. 27-car field is the largest they've had for a season opener at St. Pete. I think you have a mixture of a lot of experience in that group that got involved there, and some rookies as well. And everyone's up on the wheel. I don't think the clag really had a factor in terms of that opening lap crash. I think it was just cars concertina effect. Someone lifts, and there's that backup effect, and then we saw cars going airborne. And you're going to get that, unfortunately, with open wheel race cars. Once one rocks up on the rear wheel of another one that's kind of being driven in the forward direction, it's going to have that effect on a race car. So fortunately, everyone walked away from it, some a little more gingerly than others. I think the aero screen from IndyCar again proved its worth in terms of maybe protecting a couple of those drivers. But it's street circuit racing, Greg. I mean, it's exciting. I think everyone loves that venue. I think every time I go there, I embrace St. Petersburg more and more, and I've been going since the mid-'80s when it first started there. Raced there myself in '86 and '87. It's a wonderful street circuit, but when open-wheel race cars get together and the 2 tires touch and grab each other, there's no room for error. So it's an unfortunate consequence, but I think there was some good racing in the middle of that. We saw the 2 leaders, or what would have been the 2 leaders, with McLaughlin and Grosjean get together there after McLaughlin came out of the pits. Again, if you're racing hard and you don't give each other a little bit of room, you're going to have that happen, unfortunately.
Would it have been, in your opinion, I mean, Grosjean, that outside line, knowing that McLaughlin was on cold tires, he did give him room, but it wasn't a lot of room. Just a few corners later, you've got that long back straight down by the marina into a nice overtaking area. I understand his urgency. I got the hot tires right now. But would it have been that significantly different? Don't you think he could have got a really good run out of turn 8?
There's Grosjean. Turn 1, look at the yellow car. There's McLaughlin on the right. They're at speed. They may come together. Oh, McLaughlin holds the lead.
But there's no way I think he'll be able to hold them off on cold tires. Grosjean goes to the outside on hot tires and on the preferred line.
Is it possible? No, it's not.
Contact.
It is both of them crashing.
And Award goes through. Puddle Award to the front.
Can you believe what you've just seen here in St. Pete?
I think he could, through turn 8 and 9 there onto that back stretch down Bayshore Drive, you can get a launch. But I think when you got McLaughlin with a half or more lap of heat into his tires, it was going to make it ever more tougher. So I think he had to go for it. I think McLaughlin realized he had to push too. If he was to lose that track position then and there, he may not get it back. Long way to go, of course. But I think both of those drivers realized that could be the move right there for the win. And unfortunately, neither one of them came out of it in a great way. Grosjean retiring, McLaughlin as well, limping his way away from the scene. So I think it's just two hard races. They embraced each other afterwards. I saw some stuff on social media. So they knew it's just 10 tenths going for it. And it's just a consequence. And obviously it opened up the door for Ericsson to get his win, the savvy Swede. Yes, there's like an irony that all four of his victories, including the Indy 500, have encountered a red flag. But I think he's just got a lot of experience. He's got good speed. He's got a great crew there with Brad Goldberg on the box making the calls, and great team. I mean, so many of these teams, Andretti Autosport, certainly Chip Ganassi Racing looked very strong, and McLaughlin was really the sole Penske car that looked to be in with a shot at the victory there on the opening round of the weekend. But the series is great. There's just so many unknowns, so many viable winners in that championship, as we saw last year. It's going to make for a thrilling season.
Had to be a real gut weekend, though, for Andretti Motorsports. I mean, they had four guys that ended up out of it, and many of them showing good speed. So that's got to be frustrating.
Very much so. I mean, they always show well there. We saw a lot of Michael Andretti on the pit box during the NBC broadcast, seeing his frustration ramping up one by one. They kept falling like flies. So he couldn't believe what he was watching. But again, there's other teams ready to pick up the pieces, and strategy is such an important factor there in terms of the undercut and getting the car in and getting it back out, grabbing that track position. And I think on a street circuit, it works well. If you can just survive those first few corners and you get that track position. St. Petersburg does have an overtaking opportunities in several spots around there, but track position is king, and just opened up the door. Dixon nearly got it. I mean, he got unlucky with the timing of that yellow there midway through the race, where he'd stretched his fuel a little bit further like he always does. He's the king of fuel saving, Scott Dixon, and just got unlucky with the blend line, came out in front, had to give it back up. He could have had his first victory at St. Petersburg, even though he always runs strong there in the season opener.
And let's talk about Pato. I mean, he sneaks through, picks up the lead, looking good, and then ended up, the car stalled almost coming out of the final turn late in the race.
Ward needs to be careful here.
He needs to be careful because Marcus Ericsson and that Husky Chocolates machine is absolutely hunting him still. He's getting closer, guys.
4.5 laps to go, Hinch. Not done yet. Pato O'Ward could win at St. Petersburg.
Oh, guys, problem.
There's something wrong with him. Ericsson to the lead.
He had a huge slide coming off the corner, and he must have had a misshift. Maybe there was an overboost. That's an engine situation that temporarily limits power, and the lead now has gone to Marcus Ericsson.
And it was later announced as a plenum event. And, some sort of a little mini explosion in the plenum is what they were guessing. Cost him the win. He recovered quickly. He was gutted at the end. And Ericsson, when he faces these issues with red flags and these challenges, he's just cool. He just keeps his cool. I love that dynamic of those two guys up front.
Yeah, I think for Pato, he'll be frustrated, but I think it was a much better start to the season for that whole group. You got Rossi there on debut with the team, finishing in the top 5 as well. I think Rosenquist will have a strong year. He unfortunately got taken out even before the big shunt there at that turn 3 incident. He and Dixon brushed each other, and he got into the wall early. So the team looks good. I think Pato's just got to look at the big picture. Long season ahead, good points on the board. But yeah, to be in the catbird seat for that win, I don't understand the technicality of it. It was a plenum fire, and basically you got to shut the throttle off to shut down the oxygen and put the fire out. But certainly that momentary blip, for want of a better description, gave Ericsson. But he was there. He was close enough. He closed from like 2.5, 3 seconds. He had to be right on the tail. So that's what it's all about, to be in the position to take advantage, whether it's traffic or some kind of technical issue. He took advantage, and he got a well-deserved victory.
Yeah, he did. And let's use the McLaren story as a bit of a transition here. Obviously, a podium and 2 top 5s for McLaren and IndyCar. But when we take a look at Formula One, McLaren struggling as a lot more maybe than some would have expected in the opener at Bahrain. The big story there, of course, a sweep. Front row in qualifying, dominant 1-2 sweep by Red Bull in the race. Already, drivers, including George Russell, saying they're probably going to win every race this year. Is it that concluded already, Cal?
Well, it's ominous, Greg, because I don't think Verstappen was really happy with the setup on his race car, and he won by about 10 seconds. So they dominated the race pace there. Certainly in qualifying, looked a bit enticing, where we had like 7 cars, I think, within a few tenths of a second of one another. But come race day, Verstappen got the lead, took off. Perez, obviously, a little bit deeper there, had to fight his way through, get around Leclerc. But
you never know really what can happen throughout the race. But we were on top of things, and it was quite straightforward, but I think also with all the calls and pit stops, we did a good job.
They look very strong, and I think I was reflecting on this morning, Greg. When you think about the Mercedes dominance, it was really during a time where Red Bull didn't have great power plants. They fought through their time with Renault. There's a lot of controversy and niggles between the two camps there. They then had to get Honda up to speed, but now they've got a power plant that seems to be equal with the rest. Adrian Newey's aerodynamics take over in this era of Formula One, where the aero is so important, and I don't see anyone coming back at them. The irony is, it was almost 3 Red Bulls on the podium, because that Aston Martin looks an awful lot like last year's Red Bull, just as we saw with Force India a few years ago. That team is not afraid of going out, seeing what worked the year before. And by the end of the season, with all the photography that's taken place and all the technical savvy that they have, they can pretty much replicate what someone else is putting on the grid. So that's the route that they took. And hats off to Alonso. The 41-year-old still has it. What an amazing race. Didn't have the start he was looking for. Almost got taken out by his teammate. But nonetheless, to come through with a very strong podium, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, his 99th podium, and it was just sheer Alonso brilliance, along with clearly, as you said, a very effective car. Do you think Aston Martin now is in a two-way race with Mercedes for third best right now?
It's early days. I think they're going to have their time in the sun initially, because they've come out with a strong car.
During testing before this season, we'd all put you around P4, P3 in the pecking order. It seemed you were the second fastest car out there tonight. Would you agree?
Yeah, maybe today, but we need to keep a feet on the ground. There will be new karts in Jeddah, completely different track, and we must also not forget who we are up with here. Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull. They're really strong teams that we respect a lot, and it can well be that in 2 weeks' time we are maybe 4th or 5th or 6th. We have to see.
They've got Fallows there, who was formerly with Mercedes-Benz as part of their aero team. So they've got some really strong people. I think looking forward is where I think you're going to see that team really come on strong. They're in the middle of building their new factory, their own wind tunnel. All of their stuff right now is the Mercedes power plant. I believe they use the Mercedes wind tunnel. When they get everything in-house, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with, and certainly they have the backing with Lawrence Stroll there in terms of what he's able to bring to the table. And he's got that. He puts the demands on the team to make sure they're going to get it right. He's a no-mess kind of guy. So not sure I'd want to work underneath him, but nonetheless, I think he's driving that team forward with all of the resources they need. And I think they're going to be strong. I see Mercedes. I mean, Toto came out and basically said, the reality is here we are on the grid for the very first race. The checkered flag has fallen. We're not in the same ballpark as Red Bull.
The gap is big, unfortunately, even if we're looking at it through rose-tinted glasses. One tire against one tire, it's 4/10, and if we look at the scoreboard, it's 6/10. And this is where we were last year. So that is not satisfying and not where our objectives are.
We don't need a 3 to 4/10 upgrade. We need a whole new philosophy with our car. They've gone with this zero side pod philosophy. It struggled last year. They got a win, obviously, towards the end of the year, made a lot of progress with it. But I see people following Red Bull's lead. I don't see too many Mercedes copycats on the grid. So I think other teams have looked at that. They don't really see the positive aspect of it. And I think Mercedes are realizing right now, do we backpedal? But we live in the world of cost cap, Greg. How do they do that and basically build almost a new car quickly and stay under that cost cap and get through the rest of the season? Tricky situation for Toto right now.
This was the first time since 2015 that we've had an American driver on the grid in a Formula One race. And he was top rookie, finished 12th in the race, 16th in qualifying. What are your thoughts on Logan Sargent's first race as a Grand Prix driver?
A+, just a fantastic weekend. I mean, he didn't seem fazed by anything. James Voiles, who was with Mercedes, is now leading the charge at Williams. I think they've made a big step up. I think Albon, we saw his time at Red Bull. I mean, I don't see he's not in the Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc kind of league, but he's a really solid Formula One driver, deserves his spot on the grid. And I think for Logan on his opening weekend to be so close to Alex's pace and finishing just a couple of positions back and obviously just outside of the points was a tremendous weekend for him.
These opportunities only come around once in a lifetime. I've worked so hard for it. I've given up everything. It's going to be nonstop hard work.
I really hope that North America really embraces this young man, because he's the real deal. A good buddy of ours, Osvaldo Negri, really found this young man in karting down in Florida and said, look out for this kid. He's amazing. And on his debut, he ticked every single box. He has to be really thrilled this morning, reflecting on this weekend.
Yeah, when Oz Negri says somebody's good, you need to listen. The man knows, that's for sure. What impressed me with Logan was, he didn't throw it off the track constantly. He just stayed within himself, but drove really well within himself, didn't make a lot of mistakes, and was just very consistently quick. And that Williams, obviously not, the best car on the grid, and just stayed with it.
Considering it's my first race, I'm pretty happy with it. I achieved everything I wanted to today. I got a clean start, a good first lap, and from there just settled in and did my best to maintain a good pace and make a few good overtakes. Worked on my pit stops, and everything went smoothly. So yeah, I think it was an awesome first day in the office, and I'm really looking forward to Saudi.
It's going to be an interesting season in both IndyCar and F1 based on what we've seen here. IndyCar is going to be just major competitive, I think. As you said, a huge field, lots of potential winners there. It's going to be interesting to see how the competition reacts and deals with the dominance early of Red Bull in F1.
It will, but I think the writing's on the wall, Greg. I think it was George Russell who came out last night and said they could win every race this year. I think that's a stretch, but they'll miss their mark now and again. You always have these engine penalties that will kick in, so Max or Sergio will be coming from deeper in the pack on occasion, but they've got all of the boxes ticked right now, and this new evolution of the car, Max didn't seem really happy with it, and I hate to downplay Sergio's performance this weekend. He did very well, but when he's that close to Max, typically that means to me that they don't have that Red Bull in Max's sweet spot. He likes a car that's what they call very on the nose, very pointy, very free, very loose on entry to their corner. And when I think they get that point, Max will take it to the next level as well.
Oh, that's got to be a frightening prospect for many others. But we did see once again those little shots of Leclerc's at least one lap rocket speed, and with Frederick Vasseur now at the helm, if they can get the reliability and the performance there, it isn't done yet, and we're looking forward to a great season. So thanks again, Cal, as always, for joining us here on Speed Trap, and big thanks to everybody for tuning in. Want to remind you once again, please check out raceforrp.org and polychondritis.org. Learn a little bit more about relapsing polychondritis and related autoimmune disorders, and then do what you can to help RP, the RP Foundation, and Race for RP come up with a cause and a cure for these horrific and disabling diseases. Thanks for joining us here on Full Throttle, powered by Race for RP. See you next time.